This tutorial is sponsored by FCHQ. If you're looking to learn more about FCHQ, make sure to join their Discord. The link will be in the bio below. Also, make sure to check out their amazing app. I use it all the time to search for props, and it is such a great resource for everything that is going on in the Fortnite Creative community. It is a must-have for anyone using a PC. Go ahead and check out the link below. I used Mist Jawa's menu system as inspiration when creating this tutorial. Make sure to check their YouTube out in the description below. In this advanced tutorial, we will be going over how to create a game menu using the pop-up dialog device and a handful of other devices. Because this is a more advanced tutorial, I will be taking more time to explain things in a little more detail, not only so you can just copy what I'm doing, but so you can also learn from what I'm doing as well. Alright, before we get started in this tutorial, I think it is important to see what I have created first, so let's walk through this game menu one by one. We're going to start with Start Game. If I click on Start Game, you'll notice I go into the loading area, I can begin the game, and I can get started. I can also hit back to menu if I want to go back to the main menu. Now looking at visual settings, we can choose daytime, nighttime, or we could choose sunset. Once you choose the visual settings you like, you can go back. Then we can go to sound settings. In sound settings, you can lower music, turn off music, and go back. Loadout. Going into Loadout, you can choose either a pistol or an assault rifle. We're going to choose the pistol. Pistol now in inventory. You can see the confirmation that it did go into inventory. Next up is Collectibles. In Collectibles, there's nothing to do here except see how much of each collectible you have with a button at the bottom right that says Back to Menu. The Start Game button and the Exit button are going to do the exact same thing. Having the exit button as another option just gives the user that feeling of choice. Now that I've demoed this entire menu for you, let's go ahead and build one for your map. So now that we're behind the scenes of this map, you're going to see that the concept is pretty basic. I've kept everything very simple, and I actually built this entire thing just for this tutorial. So you're going to see back here, we have the area where you can get your pistol and assault rifle. You can see that we're being teleported also into this area where we can see our ore. And most importantly, you're seeing that I am going into first person mode when I do each of these things. You'll see that I am using the helicopter pads here in order to pull off that first person look. If you want a better look of what that looks like, it's right over here. And as you go through it, you'll notice I get shoved into that first person mode. If you're looking for the helicopter pad, it is in the top secret gallery under the shark prop gallery. So now that you've seen the demo, you're going to get started in your own island. But before you do, you want to go ahead and change two things if you have not already. You're going to go to My Island, head over to the event system, and hit Convert. You want to go ahead and turn on direct binding for this. If you want more information about direct binding, check out the tutorial in the top right or in the description below. Next, we're going to go ahead and convert to the newer devices as well. All this is saying is if you are doing this on an old island, be careful, maybe duplicate that island, but we are not doing this on an old island. This is a brand new island. I want to start with all the new stuff. To make this tutorial more simple, I deleted all the nature and I just left the mechanics with just a couple of props for point of reference. This will help with showing you how I created each thing, and it will limit some of the distractions. The first thing you're going to need, you're going to go ahead and grab a pop-up dialog device. Go ahead and grab that device and place it down. Before we do anything else, we're going to go ahead and rename the device. We're going to rename it to Pop-up Dialog Device Main. The first thing you're going to want to do is come up with a title of your game. Then I went ahead and chose Left Tall as the menu system. You can change this to whatever you'd like. Now you're noticing all this kind of HTML formatting. I didn't actually do any of this. After I wrote my text, I went to Format Styles, and you'll notice it looks normal here. But if I hover over a word, and you can see it's highlighted there, I can then emphasize any of those words by clicking on the examples here on the right. One very important thing I want to point out, you could easily click two words, and you only want to change that one. So if I go ahead and change that to gold, I realize I accidentally changed help as well. So you can highlight multiple things and change all of them if you wanted at once. Unfortunately, that's not what I wanted to do. So you just want to make sure that you're not clicked on everything at once, but on only the one you want to change. Once you go ahead and unclick the one from before, then click the one you want to change. That way you can get the desired result. Next, you're going to choose Auto Display Game Start. You want this menu to pop up right when the game starts. Next, you're going to want to choose how many buttons you want on your dialog device. I chose 6. Maybe you don't want to use all 6. Because this is the main menu, there is no default back button, so we're going to set that to none. This is where you're going to label your buttons. I have Start Game, Visual Settings, Sound Settings, Loadout, Collectibles, and Exit. Text box opacity, I left this at 50%. You can modify this and play around to get the desired look. Now, I chose mask off, and the reason I did that is I created that really cool background, and I wanted people to see that background. If you don't have a background you want to show off, you can always put this on and it will just blur out the map until they make a choice. Yes, I want this to be enabled to always, so you see it right when the game pops up. Everything else I left the same. Once that's all set up, you're going to want to hit OK. Next up, we're going to grab the HUD message device. You can go ahead and turn off a lot of these UI elements in order to clean up the screen and make it look very clean. Now you notice the HUD menu device kicks in at the very beginning when the game starts, but when I hit start game, I turn it off. And that way you see all your resources, loadout, etc. So go ahead and head over to functions. And under functions, you're going to go ahead and choose pop-up dialog device main, and you're going to change it to on responding to button 1. So what you're saying is I want to disable the HUD controller when I start the game. Button 1 is start game if you remember, but we also need to add one more. Remember I mentioned the start game button and the exit button are the same exact thing? So we're going to select pop-up dialog device main. We're going to go ahead and select the event, which is on responding to button 6. So we're saying if the person hits the exit button or the start button, disable the HUD so we can see our weapons, our inventory, and our resources. Now go over to the button at the start menu, and we're going to adjust a couple settings on this button as well. On interact, send event to, we have some of it set up, which is teleporter main teleport. So we're saying we want to teleport back to the main menu using the teleporter. We want the main menu pop-up dialog device to appear, but we also want to make sure that we choose the HUD controller device. And we want to enable that again because we want the HUD controller to hide the resources, weapons, etc. Once all of this is set up, hit OK. You're going to go ahead and grab a player spawn pad, drop it in, and the only setting you're going to change here is visible in game off. You're going to go ahead and place that in a barrier with hollow box and copy the rest of these settings. In order to make sure they don't move during the menu options, you can also put a mutator zone down. If you notice, the mutator zone covers the entire pregame area. The reason I did this is because you don't want people to move. The most important field is to make sure the movement multiplier is set to 0. Also make sure they cannot build and they cannot fire guns. Next up, we're going to focus on button number 2, which is visual settings. We need to make yet another menu. So what we're going to do off to the side is create another pop-up dialog device. This one is going to say TOD, time of day. I'm going to have you copy these settings. You're going to have left tall. The response for this is 4 buttons. Now, if you remember from before, we didn't have a default back button. Now we will have a default back button. That will be the last button, which is button 4. Button 1 is going to be day, button 2 is going to be night, and button 3 is going to be sunset. Finally, button 4 is going to be the back button. You can make the text box opacity 100, or you can make it less, but otherwise we're going to keep all the settings the same. Next up, go ahead and grab a Sky Dome device. Put that Sky Dome device down, and we're going to go ahead and create our first set of settings. So for this first one, just for this example, I didn't do anything except just use the default Sky Dome device and relabel it to day. You can go ahead and adjust these settings and make daytime look even better than I did in this example. Next, you're going to go ahead and drop a whole nother Sky Dome down. This one you're going to rename to night. And then once it's renamed and saved, you're going to go ahead and change some of the settings to make it feel like nighttime. You can go ahead and play around with that here by just changing this to all. You get a test of what that nighttime is going to look like. When you're done, set it back to none. For this Sky Dome, these were the settings I used. You're more than welcome to use these or to create your own. So now that we have both Sky Domes placed down, we're gonna go ahead and program the pop-up dialog device. First, before we do anything else, we wanna rename this to pop-up dialog device, and then you're gonna wanna add TOD to the end. Once that's renamed, you're gonna go through and add the following settings. On responding to button 1, we wanna hit pop-up dialog device, TOD show. We also wanna change Sky Dome day to enable. So let me explain this for a little bit. Button 1 is set for day. So what we're gonna do is connect the Sky Dome day volume to the event. To keep everything organized, we do name things, so all we have to do is type in a keyword like day, and then I know where to find it. Then we're gonna change it to enable. The other thing you're gonna wanna do here is choose pop-up device for TOD. By searching TOD, I can find the device I'm looking for, show. Why am I doing this? Well, let me show you. If we go to visual settings, we just programmed the day button. If I hit day, it would change. However, the dialog box would disappear permanently. We do not want that. So we want to constantly make sure the dialog comes back after each action. So the next button is button number 2, which is night. So we're gonna go ahead and tie button number 2 to the nighttime Sky Dome device. At this point, you totally understand what you to do here. You click here, you choose the device, then you choose enable. Then you'll go ahead and choose pop-up dialog, device, TOD, and show. Once again, that is to make sure the pop-up dialog device comes right back up after somebody makes a choice. The next button is the sunset. Basically, sunset is just the map without a Sky Dome device. So if you see here, all I'm doing is disabling Sky Dome night, Sky Dome day, and then I'm making the pop-up dialog box show up once again. Last but not least is button number 4, which we indicated as our back button. So because it's our back button and it's labeled back button, we have it linked to pop-up dialog device main. That's gonna take it back to the main menu. So we wanna make sure that's set to show. So if we move down our list, we just tackled visual settings. Next, we need to tackle sound settings. Sound settings is a whole nother pop-up dialog device. I labeled it pop-up dialog device music. You can make this or label this however you'd like. Here are the settings that I set up. I copied that same left tall so the menu does seem similar all the way through. I left the description blank. I made this a 3-button response. The default back button is always the last button on my menus. Button 1 is lower music. Button 2 is turn off music entirely. And then that button 3, as we discussed, is the back button. Everything else remains the same. Next up, we're gonna grab the radio device and place it down. Now this radio main device, as you can see here, you can set this up however you'd want. I set up radio main to be yes for everything. This is going to be on all the time unless the user chooses to lower it or turn it off completely. So limit audio distance I set to off. The entire island can hear it. It is set to max volume and it is going to play everywhere. You're gonna put one more radio down. This one's gonna be called radio lower. This is going to lower the volume. The only difference here is everything is set to no. The volume has been lowered from 1.5 to 0.6. And that's really the only difference. So once those two are created and you did go out of your way to label your radios so you don't get confused, you're gonna go ahead and set them up to your pop-up dialog device music. Going over to the event system, we're gonna scroll down to button 1, which is lower music. So you're gonna choose radio main and then choose stop radio because we do not want that loud version of the song playing anymore. Instead, we're gonna turn radio lower on by hitting play radio. Next, and most importantly, you always have to make sure the pop-up dialog device that you're currently in this case music, comes back after the action. Button 2 is saying we don't want any music at all. So this one is just very similar. It's basically saying turn the main radio off and turn the lower radio off. So now you're just showing no music whatsoever. Once again, we're gonna make sure that pop-up dialog box reappears. So when somebody clicks button number 2 on the main menu, it is going to show pop-up dialog device time of day or TOD. So we have that set to show. So that would be the next menu to pop up so they can make the changes they need. This is going to be the same for button number 3. Button number 3 is the music button. So pop-up dialog device music show. Button number 4 is Loadout. What you're going to do first is grab the teleporter device, place it down, and put it into an area where you're going to have your loadout. Once you place that teleporter device down, you can rename it to something like Teleporter Loadout. Then make sure to put Teleporter, Loadout, and then Teleport to. So you're telling the menu when I click on Loadout, I want to go to this teleporter right here. And these are the teleporter settings to make sure you face forward looking towards the table. I have teleporter group and teleporter target group set to none. Everything else I left the same. Teleporter riff visible, no. Visual effects, no. Sound effects, no. I made sure that converse momentum is turned off and face player and teleport direction is turned on. Everything else can remain the same. Head over to devices and grab the item placer. Then you're going to head over to weapons and choose the gun that you want in the item placer. When that gun goes into the item placer, you will see it appear here. So if you notice, the only thing I changed on the item placer is show rarity effects off. It gets rid of that yellow glow on the gun, and I'm going for a more realistic look. Okay, now do that for both guns, place them down. Now I did some creative labeling with some billboards and you can do the same if you'd like. Next up, grab a HUD message device. Make sure you're keeping up with renaming everything. This one's gonna say pistol. All right, I made a copy of this. So what I need to do now is I need to change this from pistol to AR. So this one is for AR. Also change the message to AR now in inventory. I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK. We need to go ahead and drop down another teleporter. I created a teleporter here called main because I have no way to get back to the main area since the spawn pad was the way we got here to begin with. So to get back, I created a teleporter that will spawn us basically exactly where the spawn pad is. And I kept the settings very similar. So just go ahead and copy the settings here. All right, now that we've set up the HUD message devices and the teleporter, we can program the pistol and AR. Pop-up dialog device main needs to show up because we need to see that menu pop up every single time. We want them to go back to the main menu as well. HUD message device pistol. So this will say pistol now in inventory. Next, but not least, that teleporter we just created, we need to go ahead and teleport them to it. Now we're gonna go ahead and set up the item placer AR. So if we go over here, you'll see that 2 of these have already been put in. Pop-up dialog device main show, teleporter main teleport. But we do need to add one more thing. We need to go ahead and put in the AR HUD message device. I went ahead and clicked that there, and then I'm gonna click show. AR now in inventory. Great. We are blazing along and we only have one button left. Button 5 is Collectibles. Collectibles is this table over here that shows you how you can gain points for everything that you collect. So what I want you guys to do for Collectibles is try this one on your own. What you're gonna do is copy exactly what we did and rename it. Because this is just a viewing area, you actually can't choose anything. You're gonna notice I have a back to menu button. That is the only button on this entire page. So if I hit back to menu, then at least I can get back to the main menu. Next up, you're gonna go to devices and grab a button device. So you're gonna go ahead and place that down anywhere you see fit. I put mine in the table just a little bit here, and you'll notice here there's a big sphere around the table. That is the button device in action. Make sure to rename your button device as always to something that you can remember. Once you've gone ahead and done that, you can look at the settings I have here and you can copy them. The biggest ones just being back to menu for interact text. I do not want this to be visible, but maybe in your map you do. Interaction radius, I want to make sure the interaction radius is within the area they're spawning. Once that's set up, all you have to do is on interact, make sure to show the pop-up dialog main and teleport to main. So you want to teleport back to the main menu and you want to show the main menu. This was a very large tutorial to tackle. There is a lot of moving pieces. If you still have questions, make sure to check out my Discord. I will have a link below. That Discord will answer any additional questions you may have about mechanics so you can set up the perfect custom game menu. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and until next time, take care.